Santelli exchange on our way. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Simon, and thank you. I'd like to welcome my special guest, Lacey Hunt. Lacey, it's always fascinating to talk to you, especially post the minutes of the last Fed meeting. Steve Leisman said it after I said it, and it shocked me we were on the same wavelength. It wasn't necessarily a very close call, as everybody made it appear, press conference and all, but in the end, if we do see a global glide path even lower than it is, I just think the possibilities of the Fed pushing overnight rates in a negative territory or the possibility of more QE, they continue to rise. Your thoughts on both of those?
Well, QE has been tried 3 times, all unsuccessfully. The evidence is overwhelming. Quantitative easing was more of a negative than positive. One of the worst positives is that it worsened the income and wealth divides in the country. It caused a misallocation of capital and overcapacity in a lot of industries, and in fact has served as cross purposes to the Fed's goal of trying to stabilize the inflation rate. It's been a total failure. With regard to the possibility of negative interest rates, the Fed, I believe, has the capacity to engineer the lower rates. The banks are holding about $2.5 trillion of excess reserves. The Fed's paying them 25 basis points. There's nothing that prevents the Fed from actually charging 25 basis points as a safekeeping fee, or even 50 basis points. If they were to do that, they would force the rates into negative territory. Unfortunately, it would have severe negative consequences for many components. That's one of the difficulties of all of these.
Well, let's go into the negative consequences, but I understand the institutional side of it. What about just the average person on the street? If we see overnight rates moving negative, they're negative all the way out to half the curve in Europe, how would the average person be affected, if at all?
Well, the average person's bulk of their assets are fixed income investments. And so then they would have to pay the banks a safekeeping fee. It would be very onerous. It would have a devastating impact on the money market mutual funds. Over time, it would aggravate the earnings capacity of the insurance companies. It would adversely affect the banks, their earning capacity, and it would also increase the unfunded liabilities of the corporate pension plans. If the Fed were to engineer the negative rates for any more than a short period of time, to make it effective, they would actually have to call in the currency, because as long as currency were a viable option, there would be tremendous currency disintermediation. People would begin to hold currency rather than to pay to have funds in a short-term asset. And
well, Lacey, we're going to have to leave it there.
Would be totally unknown.
Listen, not a lot of cheery things to think about in that, but we need to be early on this. I think the possibility of negative rates is higher at this point in time than ever, but it still doesn't mean it's going to happen. Thanks, Lacey. Have a wonderful